My name is Ian Ford from Nimbility, and we're here today to record our second edition of the Asia Market Video Report. We're here at Shanghai Lander, which is one of these great new wine bars that's popping up all over China. Awesome wine bar right here in the center of Shanghai. And I'm joined today with Nichole. Nichole is also a partner at Nimbility. And Nichole, what do you have in store for us today?
We've had a very special year in China, 2023. So we will discuss what has happened this year and what's happening to the Australian producers. There's a lot of buzz recently towards Australia-China relationship. And then we will also discuss what's happening outside of China. You know, there are a lot of difficulties in China, but probably a lot of opportunities outside of China in Asia. And then we're gonna finish up with the outlook for 2024, what the new year will bring us.
Great, that sounds good. Well, look, everyone, I hope it's informative. I hope you enjoy it. And here we go.
So, Ian, tell us what's, in your view, the challenges and big changes that we are seeing this year.
Well, it's been quite a challenging year in China, in the wine market in China this year. We came out of all of the COVID lockdowns from 2022, and in January, all of those restrictions were removed on travel, on quarantine, etc. And we were hopeful for a rebound and a resurgence, and there was a slight one in February, March into April. But then what's really happened here is economic conditions in China have been quite tough. The real estate sector has been in a fair amount of distress in a prolonged way. The export industry, export manufacturing has been quite dampened down and soft. And generally speaking, there is a lack of confidence with the consumer, which has really impacted on the amount of spend that's been going into imported wine. So the restaurants are open, people are traveling, people are going out, but the level of spend seems to have come down quite a bit. So we're looking at overall shipments to China are down significantly. And if we cast even further back, they're down by almost 50% compared to going back to 2018 and into 2019. So there's been quite a contraction in the market. For a few years, that was contributed to by the structural constraints of COVID restrictions and quarantines and lockdowns. In 2023, though, we are seeing a dampening and a reduction in consumer demand for imported wine in China. Now, the big question, of course, on everybody's mind is this a permanent foundational change in interest in imported wine? Or is this something that is more economic and cyclical? And we believe it's the latter. We think that it's an economic phenomenon, that once China goes through this downturn cycle of its economy, that there's going to be a return of more robust demand, more robust interest in imported wine.
We start to hear that the Australian ban may be lifted in 2024 and is causing a lot of buzz in the market. What do you think that means for the market and for the Australian producers?
Well, absolutely. We've been hearing that the WTO case that was raised by Australia has been suspended. The Prime Minister of Australia is traveling to China next week for a big state level meeting. And we understand that China has agreed to a formal expedited review of the punitive tariffs on Australian wine, which shouldn't take more than 5 months. So what we're predicting is that by April, May of next year at the earliest, we may see the return of Australian wines to the market on a regular tariff basis. So this is very good news. I mean, nobody really wanted to see those tariffs there for very long. It's great to see the Aussies be able to come back into the market. And as for everybody else, it's back to business as usual. Everyone needs to build their markets here in China, whether that's Chile, France, Italy, Spain, etc. I think important to remember that back in the day, Treasury Wine Estates was responsible for something in the vicinity of 60 to 65% of the value of Australian wine shipped into China. So Treasury is going to be the primary beneficiary. But there's going to be a lot of opportunity for other Australian producers coming back into the market. It's also an opportunity to hit the reset button. We've learned a lot about the China market as Australian producers and exporters. How do we put that into play now as we go back into China? What are the right things to do that we've learned over the last 15, 20, 30 years of exporting to China? Get some good advice, put a strategic plan together about how to re-enter the China market, and then hit the go button. And I think for Australian producers, that's an important opportunity to come in fresh, but come in smart and come in with a good new strategy.
Now we zoom out to Asia. What markets do you think are the most potential in the next 3 to 5 years?
So, interesting question. On behalf of Nimbility and our partners, I've been traveling quite a bit in Japan and South Korea this year, and both of those markets I think are looking very interesting. Korea had quite a buildup over the last couple of years. Through COVID, actually, there was quite an increase in wine shipments to Korea, and the market has really been accelerating and has got a lot of good energy. This year, it's, I think, slowed down a bit, only because the industry at large is digesting and getting through a lot of those big shipments that came into the market in the last couple of years. But I think South Korea continues to be a really exciting market, lots of good growth opportunity, some great importers there. We have Sarah based in Seoul, South Korea for Nimbility right now, so we're right there on the ground seeing how things are transpiring. So very exciting things happening in Korea. And of course, I've been in Japan quite a lot this year. Importers in Japan are reporting to me that they're having some of the best sales on record in the history of their business in Japan this year. So there's a lot of good things happening in Japan, despite the fact that the yen is quite weak. It's very weak, which is driving up actually the landed cost of imported wine. But there's been so much stimulus to the economy in terms of tourism. Tourism is booming. Hotels, new hotels are opening. Luxury hotels are opening. And the export industry is also thriving on the basis of a weak yen. And so Japan is actually looking quite dynamic. And I think this year and the year ahead in both Japan and South Korea look good. And of course, you've got the India market, challenging market, lots of obstacles and hurdles that you have to overcome to get into the market. But the size of that market is really enormous in the broad sense of the beverage alcohol market of India. And there's a lot of expectation that as this middle class, upper middle class sector of the market gets more and more turned on to imported wine, that there's going to be a lot of really potential exciting growth in India. So one to watch. And of course, we're having a very good year in Indonesia. Indonesia is a very dynamic market. Again, difficult to get in, difficult to get registered, but it's a very important market and a very populated market and a very important market to pay attention to. So yeah, I think a lot of good things happening across Asia, but those would be the highlights that I would identify.
Great. Now we are all looking forward to 2024, hoping for a change. What is the outlook for 2024, and what advices would you give to producers?
Well, at this stage, I think people need to still be cautiously optimistic about China. It's going to continue to be a struggle for the foreseeable future. We don't see that big turnaround happening anytime soon. So I think you need to think global, but act local. You need to stick to your guns about your strategy for China. This is, by no doubt, by any estimation, the most important beverage alcohol market on planet Earth. We're seeing a lot of energy under the surface of the market, so we don't feel like interest in imported wine is going anywhere. And as China comes out of this downturn economic cycle, there could be the opportunity for really robust growth in imported wine. Now, whether or not that's going to happen in 2024 is another question. But our advice, very, very firm advice to producers, stick to your guns, support your partners and your importers here in the market. Live in the here and now. I wouldn't try to overextend. Don't expect too much out of China in the year to come. If that rebound starts to happen a little bit earlier, all the better. But for now, it's that, the basics of market building, distribution, brand building, and supporting your import partners here.
Great, thank you.
Well, as always, it's never a dull moment in the China market. There's always a lot to talk about, and there are always challenges, but there are also opportunities. I would encourage everybody to remember per capita consumption of imported wine in China continues to be less than 2 liters per capita. There's a vast opportunity here in the medium to long term. And nimbility. Our team is here. We're on the ground. We're here to help. We're here to support. And most importantly, we're here to help you to understand what's going on and where the opportunities lie. So thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed it, and we'll see you next time.